Hey, how you doing? It's your boy Brogi Naric back again with another episode of the Playhouse. And this is a series on this channel where I do various fan castings for movies, TV shows, and sometimes ideas about video games. And it's it does well. It's a popular series on this channel. And in this episode, I recently did fan casting for the live action Avatar: The Last Airbender series that's planned to come to Netflix. And I recently finished The Legend of Korra because that was my first time finishing Avatar, and I finally finished The Legend of Korra. So I'm going to be doing a hypothetical fan casting for a potential live action Avatar: The Legend of Korra series that possibly might happen on Netflix. So this is all hypothetical. There's been no actual rumblings about this, but I would assume if they do Avatar and it does well, somewhere down the line they might get around to doing Avatar. And Korra, and I'm basing this casting mainly on like currently, because it could be a decade from now when they do this. So this might not be the actual cast. But I was just thinking, if I were to do it now, if they're going to do simultaneous episodes or simultaneous shows, a Last Airbender show, and then next season would be them starting a Korra spinoff at around the same time. This is the casting I would go with. So just keep that in mind. But before I get into this video, don't forget to give this video a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. We're still growing and we could use the help, so thanks for doing that. Now, the series, there was some news a couple of months ago before Korra appeared on Netflix that the showrunners, Brian I can't pronounce that man's last name, and Michael DiMartino, they left the series, and that was a lot of controversy. I'm not too worried about that because these guys, it's kind of the similar thing with what happened with not what happened, but sort of with The Mandalorian, where you had someone like Dave Filoni, who had never done live action, not being the showrunner, but getting his feet wet to help work to produce the show with Jon Favreau. I feel like them running the show probably wasn't the best idea as a whole. Now, they should be involved though, because they, can write, they know the characters and all that. But them not being showrunners, it's not that bad. It's not that, I don't think it's gonna hurt the project that much. I hope they can come back and just focus on writing. But as far as as far as we know, they're just not involved anymore. So that sucks. And also, I don't necessarily need a live action series after watching both of these series. I would just like them to bring the cartoon back. So, but if they're gonna do live action, fine. But okay, so that's just about that. So Korra, I remember when Korra was coming out, a lot of people, well, a good amount of people was shitting on it, and I was just like, is it that bad? And after watching it, no, it's fucking awesome. It's not that bad. Now, I could see why at the time people didn't like it. It's definitely a little bit different from the show. My biggest thing is, I don't know why this was a kids, like this is not necessarily a kid's show. Like Avatar is more of a kid's show with some adult themes. Korra does not really necessarily to me work as a kid's show, especially not on Nickelodeon. This is one of the most non-Nickelodeon shows I've ever seen. It works more as a straight up anime. Like if Korra aired on Toonami, it would have been a big hit. It would have been a bigger hit, but because I feel like it was on Cartoon Network, balanced in between Fairly Odd Parents and Jimmy Neutron and SpongeBob, it just didn't sit right. Because there's some deeper themes, even more so than Avatar, that happens in this show. So the series is set 100 years after the end of Avatar: The Last Airbender. There's this new area called the United Republic of Nations, which was started by Aang and Zuko. And it's this area now that we mainly focus in called Republic City, which is basically like a 1930s New York City / Chinatown sci-fi steampunk area. It's really cool. It's different. It's much more futuristic. There was advanced technology in Aang's time, but it's even further advanced. It's much more streamlined, much more steampunk. But it's got this sort of sci-fi, Art Deco-y, Sky Captain of Tomorrow type of vibe, which I love that type of stuff. So that, especially season 1, that shit really worked for me. And there's some certain things that happen that this series talks about. You got the mafia, gang stuff going on. You got civil wars, civil rights violations through the police, police brutality type stuff that's touched on. You got nationalism that's focused on. You got fascism that's focused on. Things that were kind of focused on in the first series, although that was more like imperialism. You got war propaganda, friggin' war profiteering, false flag attacks. Like, there was a lot of stuff I was not expecting. And watching, I'm like, this is not a kid's show. Like, why was this aimed at kids? This, like I said, this was like a straight up anime, or if it came on Toonami or even Adult Swim at like 11 at night on Sundays, it would have killed. Or Saturday nights, it would have killed. But anyway, so that's just a way to kind of get an idea of this new world we're having. So that's just a rundown of the series. It's really good. I loved it. It's 4 seasons, shorter seasons. I believe there was some the releasing issues, because each season is more of its own contained story, because the showrunners, they were never really given a full series. It was like, okay, we did 1 season, and then they didn't know they would come back for another, then they got another season, then another season, and so it wasn't completely as planned out as the last Airbender series. So it jumbles up. It works its best, although I have to say the ending isn't as satisfying as it could have been. It's not bad, but it's not as satisfying as it could have been, because it's just kind of just like, here we go. Maybe we'll get another season. Sadly, they didn't. But anyway, that's just a quick rundown. I'm going to get into the casting now. We're going to start with our main character, Avatar Korra. And my pick for Avatar Korra is Auli'i Cravalho. Now, you may remember her as the voice of Moana. That was like her first thing she was in. Now, I think a lot of people might pick her. She does seem like the basic bitch, obvious choice. Trust me, I tried to find someone else just to be different, because I don't always like to pick the standards that others pick, the go down the beaten path. But after looking for certain criteria, someone who either comes from a native background or like a Hawaiian background, I was even trying to find some Indian actresses too, maybe someone just a little bit darker, but like, she's the best out there. She's currently, at this time, she's 19 years old. She's a very good actress. Like I said, watch Moana. She's done other non-Disney stuff. And the only drawback I can say, I'm not sure how well she would do with the stunt work, but actress and acting have stunt people for that. But she's a solid actress, great voice, good look to her. So yeah, she would be my pick for Korra. Now, Korra is a very interesting character. She's almost like the opposite of Aang. She's from the Southern Water Tribe, and she's a very powerful bender from the get-go. Aang was like a little kid, and he was kind of thrust, the whole Avatar thing was thrusted upon him. He tried to fight against it. Korra's the opposite. Korra, once she realized she was the Avatar, she was gung-ho, ready to get down, to learn anything, and she's a child prodigy, basically. Like, Aang fought against it and then got swept away and had to hurry up his training. As for Korra, she was training from, I guess, 4 to, like, whatever age she is in the show, 16, 17, whatever. So yeah, she was gung-ho. She's completely different. She's not if you're worried about female protagonists, because I know that's the big thing nowadays, people always complain about them being too powerful or being a Mary Sue. Korra is not a Mary Sue in any way. She's very powerful, but she struggles. She definitely struggles, and that's one of the frustrating things about her, is because some of that stuff is caused by her own personality, because she's very cocky, she's very headstrong, and she's very hot-tempered. Especially in the earlier seasons, she can be annoying. I love the character, but I can see why people were turned off by her, because Aang was just so precious and so nice. Like, the best way to describe it is, Aang is like Luke Skywalker, and Korra is closer to Ahsoka Tano. And you remember, if you've seen Clone Wars, you kind of get what I'm saying, where she starts off kind of rough and annoying, but goes through some things, some trials and tribulations, but she's really good and gets better. That's Korra. Korra's a really cool character. Korra is also different because she was raised by the White Lotus, which is that secret organization that helps protect the Avatar. And she was raised by them from the beginning. So she's very sheltered, and most of the first season is her. It's like a country girl going into the big city and starting to get used to the lights and all of that type of stuff, the hustle and bustle of the city. So you have to have an actor who could portray someone who's exploring the wide open world for the first time, which is similar to what Moana's character did. She definitely struggles, not just struggling with her personality, but she also has certain physical strugglings, like water bending, fire bending, and earth bending is easy for her, but air bending is the toughest. And because it's the most opposite of her personality, where she has to be calm and patient and tranquil, and have to go with the flow. Because she's, like I said, she's very rigid and very stubborn, especially early on. So that was one of her weaknesses. And also another weakness she has is the spiritual connection, which is another big part of being an avatar. She sucks at that spiritual stuff. Like, the majority of the stories throughout the series is her dealing with the spiritual stuff. Because Aang was pretty good at that. Like, him being an airbender, he was pretty strong on the spiritual side. It was the tougher earth stuff that he struggled with. But Korra really struggles with the spirit stuff. So, yeah. And like Aang, she also has a special pet with her. Like, Aang had the buffalo, sky bison, Appa. She has this polar bear dog named Naga, which is great. I would prefer a polar bear dog, but the bison can fly. I'm just saying, bison's flying trumps polar bear dog. But Naga's adorable. I love Naga. And it would be, that's budget-wise, that's going to be tough. Not quite as tough as a sky bison, but yeah, Korra's a dope character, and like I said, she's a hard head, and she needs to calm down. And in order for Korra to deal with her lack of spiritual connection and her struggling with her airbending, she has a special teacher to help her learn airbending, and that character is that of Tenzin. And my pick to play Tenzin is John Cho. John Cho, you would, of course, might remember him from as Harold and Harold Kumar series, and of course as the new Sulu in the J.J. Abrams Star Trek films, and many other stuff. John Cho is great. The reason I went with John Cho is because, like in the cartoon, he's voiced by J.K. Simmons, and he's an important character. And for a show like this, you need a big enough name to draw attention to the project. And I wanted to keep everyone, for the most part, Asian, because everyone's, various Asian descent, Asian ethnicity. And I wanted to get an actor who's a big enough name, who could draw eyes and attention to this, but also fit the role. And I feel like John Cho fits that perfect. So Tenzin is the youngest son of Avatar Aang, and his family are the only airbenders in existence right now. It's him and his, the first is 3 kids, and then it becomes 4, and his wife. He is the leader of the Air Nation. They live on the Air Temple Island, and he's involved in the politics of the Republic, of the United Republic, and especially in Republic City. He's there to train Korra. He's different because he's very different from what Aang as a kid was. He's very studious, very stubborn, very by the book, by the rules, and he's all about being an avatar and being an airbender. And he does his best to try to keep Korra in check. He wants her to be good, but he also kind of holds her back, and he has to kind of let her grow a little more. So there's tension between them, with her wanting to be more out and about and him trying to hold her back. It's a good balance between the two. And he's a great character, and I feel John Cho would fit this role very well. He's aged now, where you can buy him as an older mentor type of character. And if you've seen him as Sulu in some of those Star Trek movies, when he does the acting stuff, he pulls it off really well. So I'm not worried about him seeming too much like a comedy guy. And I know he can play a very strict father type of role, especially with all the crazy kids that he has. Which I'm not going to cast all the kids because they're way too young, but they're all great. Jinora, Milo, Ikki, and Rohan. They're all great. Except for Rohan, he doesn't really do much. But and the wife is great too. So Tenzin's a cool character, and I think John Cho would fit him perfectly. Okay, so next up on the list is the character Mako, who is named after the actor Mako, who was the original voice actor for Uncle Iroh. I was about to say General Iroh, for Uncle Iroh, and it was a nice little nod to the character. And my pick to play Mako is Brandon Soo-Hoo. Now you may remember Brandon Soo-Hoo from the Dusk Till Dawn series. I don't remember where that aired on, but he was on that. He does voice work as Beast Boy in some of the DC movies. And you may also remember him as the little bad guy kid in Tropic Thunder. And he fits this role. I know a lot of people think of him, he would be perfect for Zuko, which he would be. Only, in my opinion, the only problem is he's just too old at this point. Unless you really want to just age all the kids up, which, like I said, I did a casting video for Avatar where I deliberately wanted young, like, teenager kids to play those roles. But he would be perfect for Mako, because these guys, all these characters, and the way I'm going with this casting, all these characters, they have to be like at the youngest 17. Because even in the cartoon, they were not that young. They were definitely older kids. Like Mako, Mako's this like, okay, so he's an orphan. He grew up on the streets. He, did a gang life. He's an athlete. And very early on, like the second season, he becomes a cop. So he's not that young. But he's a badass firebender, and he's not too cool for school, but he is like cool, but he's also kind of reserved to a degree. But like, don't piss him off, because he got hands. He can fire bend. He's very good at the electricity bending, and he's a fun character. At looking at him, you would think he's the Zuko, but he's not Zuko at all. Like, Zuko is way more tortured than what Mako is. And Mako does have a rough past, like I said, growing up on the streets as a young kid, being orphaned very young, working with gangs, doing stuff like that. But he's not as tortured or as angsty as Zuko is. But he's a cool character, and he's a bit of a fuckboy, I will say, and I'll get more into that a little bit later, because he's a little frustrating too. They're all these characters are kind of frustrating. They're not quite as snappy as the original series, but they're not bad either, because I do like them. They're messier, but they're also a bit more dynamic to a degree. Brandon Suhu, he does have a martial arts background. He's a good actor. I think he's got a cool look to it. In order to play Mako, you got to look cool as well. And I think Brandon Suhu can really pull that off. So that leads us to the next person on the list, that being Bo Lin, who is Mako's younger brother and my favorite character on Avatar, Legend of Korra. And my pick to play Bo Lin is John Harlan Kim. And you may recognize him from a series called Librarians that was on TNT, and I believe he's on the new current show called 911 on Fox. I believe he's on that as well. He's an Australian actor. He's a younger guy, and the one thing about Bo Lin and Mako, they're brothers, but they don't necessarily look like. They have very distinctive looks. Brian Suhu has the leaner, athletic look of Mako, and John Harlan Kim definitely he's in shape. He's got the physicality to pull off Bo Lin, because Bo Lin is a bit stockier and wider guy. And Bo Lin is this, he's an earthbender, very good earthbender, but he's a goofball, and he's very funny. He's kind of like this series version of Sokka, not quite as smart, definitely not as smart or as strategic as Sokka, but Bo Lin is very optimistic, very energetic, and he has a heart of gold. He's a bit naive at times, but he's also a hopeless romantic. Like, seriously, he ends up he's looking for love. He's trying his hardest, and he ends up with some really interesting relationships, especially involving the character Eska, which that stuff is hilarious. But he has a good life. Like, he's very chillful. He becomes a famous mover star, which is basically a movie star. And he has his little pet ferret, Pabu, who's a fire ferret. Him and his brother are these pro benders, these special, like a type of bending athletics type of thing. And Korra comes in, and that's how they all get to know each other. And also, he's not only an earthbender, but he discovers he's a lava bender too. So he does progress, and he tries his best to do good. And I think John Harlan Kim can pull off, because working on the show, The Librarians, he plays a funny, sarcastic character. His character, I think it was called Ezekiel Jones, is a bit more, he's got the street side to him, but he's also smart. So if he can just take out the smart part and just play the street part and just be goofy, I think he can pull it off. He's got a cool look. I think John Harlan Kim would definitely be great in this role. And to finish up the new Team Avatar, we have the character of Asami Sato. And my pick to play Asami Sato is Midori Francis. Now, Midori Francis is a new and upcoming actress. She's 25. You may have seen her from Good Boys. She's also been in a series called The Birch, which is on Facebook streaming. It's like a little show on Facebook streaming. And the reason I picked her was because she has a look of Asami, but one of the things, she's an up-and-coming actress. She's very good. I've seen some clips of her. She's very talented. But finding out that she was from New Jersey, I think that could help, because Asami is this, she's the daughter of this rich industrialist inventor, and she's like this city girl who is kind of sheltered, but she loves the nightlife, but she's also very smart and very capable. She can fight. She's a very good driver and pilot. And I feel like if her being from the city area, she can bring a certain city girl toughness vibe to Asami. And Asami is a cool character, always fashionable. And I like that she's not I'm glad, because you would think with the pretty girl design, she would be an airhead. And I like they didn't do that. They made her actually like the smartest one on the team. And back to Mako with the whole fuckboy thing. So Mako is in the weird love triangle, sometimes rectangle, involving himself, Korra, and Asami. And that stuff in the beginning is handled pretty well. It's frustrating, but it does encapsulizes young people in relationships. It's really interesting how it goes down. But Mako he's kind of the worst. But it's like him and Asami are a thing, but he's kind of got things for Korra, and then they break up, and he's like stuck in between them. And then as the series goes on, we find out that there's a thing between Asami and Korra, which at the time they couldn't, working on Nickelodeon, they couldn't quite go as deep into it as they wanted to, but that was one of the goals that they wanted, because at the end of season 4, they go off together. But they don't kiss, but it's implied. And that would work totally in 2020 and all. That shit would work. So I had no problem with it. Like I wish they could have been allowed to do more, to drop more hints. But there are subtle hints there. So that relationship works out very well, I think. Because the friendship between the 3 of them and the 4 of them really is really good. And I think Midori Francis would do a good job at pulling that off. Okay, so next on the list is that of Chief Tonrock. And my pick to play Chief Tonrock is Jason Momoa. Pretty obvious. This was like the first casting pick I came up with. Chief Tonrock, well, Jason Momoa, you know, is Aquaman, Conan, and Game of Thrones guy. And big dude, very charismatic. And that's based kind of what Chief Tonrock is. Chief Tonrock is Korra's dad. He's the chief of the Southern Water Tribe. And he's a badass bender who's protective of his daughter and protective of his people. And Jason Momoa would do, it's pretty no-brainer. I don't think there are many other actors who could really fit into that. And you also, like I said, you want name actors to bring more attention to this. He's not in the series that much, so you don't have, in terms of budget, you don't have to worry too much about, you know, he can be like a good guest star for the series. And he's a really sweet character, so that's my pick for Chief Tonrock. There's another character that I absolutely love in this series, that is Chief Lin Baifong. And my pick for her is Ming-Na Wen. This was another no-brainer, probably the second person I've had on this casting list. Ming-Na Wen you may recognize as the voice of Ron, and also as Agent May on Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And she has the stern bitch face that Lynn always has. Lynn is the chief of police for the Republic City Police, and she is the oldest daughter of Toph Baifong, who is the powerful Earthbender. And Toph is my favorite character, and her daughter Lynn is like slightly less cooler version, but like still badass version of Toph. And she is a metal bender. All the police are like uniquely metal benders. Her mom, Toph, was the first chief of police, started the metal bending police force. And she's tough. She's very tough on Korra. It's in the beginning. She does not like Korra. She doesn't want her around. And that's due to her feeling, because Korra's connected to Tenzin. And Tenzin is Lynn's ex, which that's interesting stuff too. her and Tenzin were together, then they broke apart. And Tenzin went on to have a family, and Lin just went on to be a hard worker and bitter as hell. She is bitter. She is lonely as fuck, and but she's a badass, and she's got cool armor. All the police have this cool metal armor, and they throw the grappling hooks and swing around like Spider-Man. It's pretty dope. But I love Lin. And Ming-Na Wei, she can bring that stern, like the character she plays on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is kind of very, especially in the earlier seasons, it's very similar to Lin, where she's this very stern-faced, very by the book, and very willing to tell people you're fucking up and get out the way, let me do it. So she would be perfect. This is just perfect cast. So now I'm going to get into some of the older kids of Avatar Aang. Starting off with Bumi, and my pick to play Bumi is Randall Park. Now, you may know Randall Park for various things. He's mainly known for Fresh Off the Boat, and he's a comedic actor. I wanted someone who can do comedy. I was trying to find someone who was a little older, because Bumi is the oldest of the 3 kids. Give him some makeup, he would look older, but Bumi is the one kid out of the 3 of Aang's kids who couldn't bend, or at least at the beginning he couldn't bend. And he's a retired general within the United Forces. And he's this wacky, off-the-walls child of Aang's. He's kind of like a Sokka type, but he's a little crazy in the head. And he's very, he's very overbearing. He's very eccentric, and he kind of annoys the hell out of his younger brother Tenzin. And he's kind of a pain in the ass. He's not annoying. He's annoying to Tenzin, but he's actually a fun character. And he's always trying to help Tenzin get the stick out of his ass. And over time, as the series goes on, he becomes an airbender. So then he starts to learn how to be an airbender. That helps him kind of get back into the swing of things of being, in shape and being a little more serious. But he's a fun character, and I think Randall Park could play the goofy side, but then he can also play those moments where Bumi gets serious and starts to tell Tenzin like, hey, you need to chill out and stuff like that. So I think Randall Park can pull that off very well. And next up is Bumi and Tenzin's sister, that being Kaya. And my pick for Kaya is Tia Carrere. Now, this was a tough pick because I was trying to find someone, because, Kaya is an older woman, and I was trying to find women of the sort of native Hawaiian background. And I completely forgot about Tia Carrere. I hadn't seen her in a while, but you may recognize her from Wayne's World and True Lies. And she was in Lilo and Stitch. She did the voice of the older sister in Lilo and Stitch. Tia Carrere is great. I love her. And she would fit perfectly with Kaya. She's, like I said, she's the daughter of Aang and Katara. She's a waterbender like Katara. She's close with her mom, but she's also sassy and tough and headstrong. She doesn't do a lot in the series, but she's a really good character. And I like the moments between the 3 siblings, especially between Bumi and Kaya, where they talk about how Aang was a little neglectful to them. Aang was more into Tenzin because Tenzin was like him. They were the only airbender, so he took a lot of time talking to Tenzin and training Tenzin to know so much about the Air Nation. And the kids kind of felt neglected about that. So I thought that was kind of an interesting peek into like Aang as a father. Like he's not a terrible dad, but it's like he could have could have hung out with us a little more, Dad. But and I think that's an interesting dynamic about your heroes growing up and being real people, stuff like that. So those are my picks for Aang's kids. I'm sorry, this is gonna be a long list. I should have said this at the beginning. This is gonna be a long list. Next on the list is that of Opal Bifong. And my pick to play Opal is Lana Condor. Lana Condor, you may remember her from the To All the Boys I've Loved series on Netflix, and also she was, blink if you missed it, she was Jubilee in the last 2 X-Men, or at least the last couple of X-Men movies. And I like her. She's got a nice look. She's got a working relationship with Netflix, so if this was to happen, she could end up in this series. She might even end up in the actual Avatar series. And Opal is the niece of Lin Bifong, and she's from the city of Zafu, which is this special nation within the Earth Kingdom that's all metal benders, very high tech, very fancy, sort of like it looks like Krypton because the series has this whole, like I said, 1930s, 40s, 50s sci-fi Art Deco world view to a degree, and it looks like Krypton. The way they dress, the way the city looks, it looks like Krypton. And she's one of the new airbenders that appear later on in the series, and she also becomes Bolin's girlfriend. And she's a very bubbly, optimistic character, but she's tough, and she's very protective of her family. And she later on in the series, she works with the Air Nation to help save the world. And I think Lana Condor can pull this character off because, like I said, she's bubbly. She has those cute moments with her and Bolin where they're starting their relationship, and I think her working with so many different romantic comedy stuff, I think she can really pull that off. So those are my reasons for picking Lana Condor as Opal Beifong. And you can't have Opal Beifong without Suyin Beifong, who is her mother. And my pick to play Suyin is Kelly Hu. Yes, right. Who? Kelly Hu. You may remember her from the X2, the second X-Men movie. She played Lady Deathstrike, and she's been in a lot of other different things. She's done a lot of voice work in Young Justice as Cheshire, and she was also in the Arrow TV show as China White. I forgot about this actress, really, but she's been busy. Like I said, she's done a lot of voice work, too. And she has the look of Sue. She's right in the same age range as Ming-Na Wei, to believably play her sister. And Sue is Opal's mom. She's the leader of Zafu. She's Lin's younger half-sister. They have the same mom but different dads. And she was... there's a lot of tension in the Beifong family. The kids have tension with the mom because they have tension with Toph, but the sisters also have tension because Lin was by the book. She was very focused and dedicated on her job, and Sue was very carefree and a wild child. And Lin hated the fact that Toph would let her get away with so much shit to the point where Sue got involved in a crime and Toph had to cover it up. Her and Sue got in a fight and ended up causing her to have her scratches. So she's held this grudge against her younger sister for all this time. Lin has been very dedicated to her job, working hard to save the city, lonely as hell, while her sister Sue has traveled the world, is the leader of her own nation, has a huge family. She's got 6 kids, living lavishly, just doing her own thing, and she's sort of a very progressive woman as well, because as you can tell how she runs her nation and everything. She's not big on world leaders and stuff like that. She's a cool character. She's a badass too. She's a metal bender, earth bender, just like her mom and her sister, and she's solid. And the tension between her and her sister, is great stuff. I love all of that stuff. And I think Kelly Hu can really pull that off. Like I said, she did the voice of Cheshire in Young Justice, and she has tension with her sister Artemis. So Kelly Hu can totally pull this character off. So I think she'd be a great pick for Sue Beifong. So now I'm going to get into the old heads, the original Team Avatar, and I'm going to start off with Avatar Aang, and my pick to play Avatar Aang is Steven Yin. And you may know him, of course, as Glenn from The Walking Dead and many other projects. And Aang is not shown that much in this series. He's mainly in flashbacks because, like I said, Korra sucks with the spiritual stuff. So it's a struggle for her to talk to her past lives, and one of the main past lives she talks to is Aang from time to time. He helps her out, giving her little hints and tips about certain things. And so once again, he's a big enough name, a well enough known name to be a good supporting guest star role. And he would be cool. It's just pretty simple as that. Next on the list is Lord Zuko, and my pick to play him is Francois Chow. Francois Chow, you may know him from The Expanse, where he plays one of the main bad guys in that. He was also the Shredder in Ninja Turtles, the second Ninja Turtles movie, Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze, which I didn't know. He has a martial arts background. He's an older guy. He's like 60, And this version of, it's been, 100 years later, Zuko is much more calmer, um, but he's still a badass. And he has a pet dragon that he uses. He's not the leader of the Fire Nation, his daughter is, but he's still around. He pops up a little bit in this series to kind of help out, because he's part of the White Lotus, and once again, their goal is to protect Korra and what she's been doing his entire life. Didn't train her. I would probably change that in the series. Actually, be like he was her trainer when it came to the firebending stuff. But they don't deliberately say he was, but I would assume he was. That would be cool. I'm just saying. But yeah, Francois Chow is a really solid actor. I've seen him in various things over the years, and he can pull this off. He can pull off an old Zuko. He was in the recent Ghost of Tsushima game. He was the dude with the bow and arrows, so he can pull this role off in his sleep. Next up is that of Toph, by far my favorite character in the entire Avatar franchise. And my pick to play old lady Toph is Wai Ching Ho. I believe I pronounced that right. You may remember her as Madame Gao from Daredevil and all the other Netflix Marvel Defenders stuff. Pretty easy pick, knock on wood, she'll still be around if this ever happens. But, she's an older lady. She plays tough and serious and, wise, badass. And that's what Toph is in this. She's super old, super cranky. She was, like I said, the first chief of the Republic City Police. And then at some point, she just said, fuck it. And she went to the swamp, and she just old hermit living in the swamp. And once again, to make a Star Wars parallel, she's basically Korra's Yoda. Living in the swamp, helps her out, weird and cranky, but like the original Yoda, where it's just like, who is this crazy hermit in the swamp? But it's like very powerful, and she pops up towards the end of the series to help Korra. After Korra's gone through some tough trials and tribulations, she needs to get her life together, and Toph is there to help her refocus and train her to heal herself on her own. And Toph also, like I said, has the rough upbringing with her kids, because she was not the best mother. She was very hands-off to the kids when they needed structure. She kind of just let them do what they wanted, and they ended up being the people that they are. And the stuff between that family is just great. When they have their moment where all three of them finally get to talk it out, great stuff. And I think Wai Ching Ho would definitely pull off that role. And lastly, on the old head good guys, I'm going to cast Avatar Wan, who was the first Avatar. And my pick to play him is Mike Mo. And Mike Mo, if you've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he was the guy that played Bruce Lee, which I thought he did a pretty good job at. But there was controversy around that. But he's a martial artist. He's done acting in various low-budget films. I don't think you need someone too well known to pull off this character, but you should have someone who can do martial arts and who can, decently act. Juan was this common thief hundreds, thousands of years ago, back in the Avatar world, where the societies lived on the back of the giant lion turtles, and they were given the airbending abilities, although they also learned it from the animals too. It's kind of weird. But he takes the fire bending, he steals it, and then he gets banished, and over time he's living in the wild with the spirits, and he travels to the other worlds, gains the other bending powers. He finds out about Rava, who is the light spirit, and Vatu, who is the darkness spirit. Inadvertently releases Vatu, so then he has to make it up by teaming up with Rava. They team up, and that forms the bond that allows the Avatar to hold all four of the elements, and also allows them to go into the Avatar state, and also allows them to reincarnate. So it was cool when they explained most of that. I like that stuff. At first, I was kind of about it, but as it went on, it was an interesting explanation of the whole. How does the Avatar control the elements? Is it able to reincarnate over time? And Wan is a very important character in the series in terms of that lore. So that's why I'm taking the time to cast this character. And I think Mike Mo will be able to pull off. Like I said, doesn't need to be that big of a role, but you should have someone who can act, who can be kind of charming. He can be interesting because he was, like I said, when he played Bruce Lee, he was very captivating, and you could also have someone who can do the martial arts stuff. So Mike Mo is my pick. So now I'm going to get into the villains. Finally, getting into the villains, and I'm going to start off with the very fun Ignic Blackstone Varric. And my pick to play Varric is Taika Waititi. This was another easy pick. I'm pretty sure everyone has Taika Waititi pick if they ever did a thought of a live-action Korra. Taika Waititi is clearly the person you would go for Varric. Taika Waititi, movie director, actor, Jojo Rabbit, What We Do in the Shadows, Thor Ragnarok, all that good stuff. Comedic actor. Varric is this rich, eccentric, and goofball billionaire slash inventor from the Southern Water Tribe, and he's a parody of Howard Hughes, where he, eccentric billionaire guy, and he has his he does all types of things, whether it's aviation, naval stuff, robots, you name it. He's got all this type of stuff, and he's this fun character, but he's got a bit of a. He's not a villain, but he is an antagonist to a degree, because he starts off as this good guy, and then as the series goes on, when he first is introduced, you find out that he's got a dark side to him. He inadvertently steals Asami's company from her, and he's also, once there's the civil war between the North and the Southern Water Tribes, he's like all in on the Southern Water Tribe, and he's like big on war propaganda. He starts making these things called movers, which are basically movies, and he does these war propaganda movies called, was it Nut Tuck? Hero of the Southern Water Tribes or whatever, and he has Bolin plays that character. And they're these old, crappy sort of Flash Gordon serial movies, but it's all with the message of, hey, we have to fight the North. And it's interesting stuff. Like I said, I love all that weird 1940s, 50s sort of stuff that they have going on. And Varric is a fun character, and he also has his loyal assistant Julie, who's always there to cover his ass because he can't do anything without her. And fun characters. And I think, like I said, Taika Waititi would kill that. And once again, another name guest star to bring to the project, to bring eyes to the project. So there you go. Next up is that of Tarlok, who is probably my least favorite villain out of the series. And my pick for Tarlok is Sinhil Ramamatri. I hope I said that right. You may remember him as Mohinder from Heroes. He was also recently on The Flash. And he's a solid actor. He's been acting for a while. Got a great look. Good enough that it was hard to find a necessarily native actor for this role. So I went with someone that I knew was a person of color, but also someone who has experience in acting and who can pull off this character. And Tarlok is this representative of the Northern Water Tribe within Republic City, and he's a sleazy politician. Well, he's not sleazy, he's a corrupt politician. He wants to appear to be the good guy while also secretly trying to steal power within Republic City, and he's trying to stop the bad guy Amon, and he tries to trick Avatar Korra use her fame on his side so he looks like the good guy whilst doing shady shit behind the scenes, abusing his power with the city, leading a task force and all of that. That's where the police brutality and corruption stuff comes in the series. And even though he wants to stop Amon, we find out that he's Amon's little brother, and he's this Tarlok is this powerful water/bloodbender, and I'll get more into that later. But he's an interesting character, but he's not as good as the other villains. You know what I'm saying? But Sandhill, I think, would be able to pull off the handsome, charming, good guy out to the public, but behind the scenes, he's controlling and calculating. So those are my reasons for picking him to play Tarlok. Another villain from season 1 is that of Hiroshi Sato, who is the father of Asami Sato. And my pick to play him is Kenneth Choi. Kenneth Choi, he's been in a lot of different things, a lot of smaller roles. He was in the People versus OJ. He was one of the Judge Ito, I think was who he played. And he's also on the series on Fox called 911. He's been in some of the MCU movies and cameos. And Asami's dad is this billionaire. He runs Sato Industries. And he seems like this nice guy up front, but secretly he's a racist. He's part of the Equalists. He hates benders, and he's been secretly funding them and provides them with these special blimps and tanks and planes, but also their taser weapons, which Sasami uses as a, to fight the bad guys, and also these mech suits, which was one of the big things that happened in the series. It got very sci-fi with the mech suits that are made of platinum, because platinum is the most purest metal, so the metal benders can't bend it because it needs impurities in it to be able to bend. And very, very, like, oh, nice guy who's secretly bad. But then later on in the series, he comes back. He's had a change of heart, and he actually ends up sacrificing himself to save the day. And I think Kenneth Choi can pull that off. Like I said, he's a very good actor. He's funny too. He's done some comedic stuff too, so he can pull off the nice guy, but then also evil guy, and then the reformed bad guy stuff. So I think Kenneth Choi would be a good pick for Hiroshi Sato. So let's keep it going. Now we get into the big league villains, and I'm going to start off with Kuvira. And my pick to play Kuvira is Jessica Henwick, who you may recognize from Game of Thrones, and also as Colleen Wing in Iron Fist on Netflix, which was the best thing about that series. She can be a badass, and she can do the stunt work very well. She has a cool look, and I think she would be great to play Kuvira, who is the main villain of season 4. She's known as the Great Uniter. She's from Zaofu, which is also from the Earth Kingdom, and she's Su Yin's protege, basically. And after certain events happen in the Earth Kingdom, when the Earth Kingdom is like in disarray, in complete chaos, it needed someone to kind of get it back together. Su Yin didn't want it, but Kuvira took that position, and she's this militaristic hard ass who's trying to reunite the kingdom. She's very pro Earth Kingdom, but she's also very power hungry, and she loves control, and she kind of like comes into the different territories, and she's like, hey, either be on my side or you go get ran over. Basically, that's kind of how it is. Like you can be out here in the wilderness, or you can join me and be safe. You have to bow down to me, but you'll be safe, or you can just get ran over. And that's kind of what her character is. She's a badass earth and metal bender, and she also has like these like cuff link things that she can control and manipulate people. She's a cool villain. Of the 4 main villains of the series, she is probably my least. Is she my least favorite? And she's very interesting. I think the ending with her, like I said, the ending of season 4 is not as strong as the others, but she's a good character. And I think, and of course I forgot, she uses, one of her special things is she ends up using weaponized spirit tech, and she has this big metallic mech suit that she uses with a fucking spirit cannon to this destroy shit. Like, it's good visuals. Like, this would be a good visual. So I think Jessica Henwick would be able to pull this character off. Okay, so next up is Chief Unalaq. My pick to play Chief Unalaq is Cliff Curtis. Cliff Curtis has been in the business for a long time. You may recognize him from was it Fear the Walking Dead spinoff, which I didn't know he was on. But you may also recognize him from from Avatar: The Last Airbender movie, because he played Fire Lord Ozai in that. And I feel like he should come back as redemption, just like the girl who played the princess in the movie is the voice of Asami in the cartoon. I think Cliff Curtis, it would be cool to have him come back and play Unalaq. Cliff Curtis does come from a Polynesian background. I think he's New Zealand background. So he's got the right background for it. I thought he was Indian, judging from the movie, but he has a good background for that. He has the agency to play this character. So Unalaq is the chief of the Northern Water Tribe. Now in the series, he is the younger brother of Tonrock, but being that Cliff Curtis is a little bit older than Jason Momoa, you can switch it where he's the older brother of Tonrock. And he is, like I said, leader of the Northern Water Tribe. He's very spiritual. He's a very powerful and very gifted waterbender. He has two twins, Eska and Desna. And they're great. And two weird kids. And and he gets closer to his niece Korra and trains her in spirituality, trains her in knowing what the spirit world is, and uses her to open up the portal between the spirit worlds. It's a thing called the harmonic convergence, where the spirit worlds, which were blocked off by Wan, become open. He uses try to use her abilities to break it open, and then he wants to unleash Vatu, the dark spirit, and combine with Vatu to become the dark avatar. And he also secretly, you find out he manipulated situations so he could be the leader of the Northern Water Tribe and get his brother kicked out. So that's why he's stuck in the Southern Water Tribe. And he's an interesting villain. I liked Unalaq. At first I was kind of like about the character, but as the season goes on, he's a very interesting character. And I think Cliff Curtis can pull off like that regalness of the character, but also that dastardliness and behind him, because like most of the villains, they all have interesting viewpoints. Like all the villains are way more, in my opinion, way more dynamic than the villain of the Avatar, the first Avatar series, that being Emperor Firelord Ozai. Because Firelord Ozai was just, I'm evil and I want to burn shit. Each of these other villains in Korra all have certain philosophies and certain legitimate good sides to what they're to a degree, interesting sides of what they believe in. Unalaq is a serious villain because he does cause some things to change. He kind of destroys Rava, the light spirit that makes the Avatar. Kind of destroys it, kind of makes it goes away for a little bit. And he also, big thing he does is he destroys Korra's connection to her past life. Like that shit is cut off by Unalaq. And they don't even bring that back, which I thought was kind of weird. So, but he also, being focused on the spiritual side, he does inadvertently convinces Korra that the spirit world probably should be open to the main world, which leads into the whole thing in season 3 where spirits are all over in the city and there's new airbenders. So these villains do make a lasting impact on the series, and I think Cliff Curtis would do it. So I think Cliff Curtis would be a great, once again, a great name actor to pull in and play that role. So next up on the list is my favorite villain, one of my favorite characters out of this entire series, and that is Zahir. And my pick to play Zahir is Nick E. Terabay. Now, Nick Terabay, you may recognize from the series Spartacus. I know him from the series of The Expanse, where he plays this tough guy, bodyguard, secret agent character, and he can do the stunt work and he can play a badass. And that's what Zahir is. Zahir is a straight up badass. This guy is so dope. Zahir is a member of the secret group known as the Red Lotus, which is a counter to the White Lotus, because the White Lotus was intended to protect the world, protect the Avatar, but over time they got kind of lazy and they started protecting kings as opposed to their main job. And the Red Lotus is like, no, that's not what we're about. We have to basically bring chaos to the world, because through chaos there is order, and he's a big anarchist basically. So here is all about chaos. He is an agent of chaos. He doesn't like governments. He doesn't like kings. He doesn't like any type of rules. He's like, all that shit's got to go. And he leads this special group of badass benders, each of a different element. And Zahir wasn't even a bender. He's a huge airbender fan, but he was not an airbender until the whole Korra opening up the spirit world created more airbenders, and he gained the ability. So he's like a super badass airbender. Zahir was this convict who had been locked up for 13 years, him and his crew, because when Korra was a little kid, they tried to kidnap her, but they got captured. So eventually, once Zahir becomes an airbender, he breaks free and they're out to kidnap her again. His goal is to stop the Avatar cycle with Korra, so they have to kill her. And he wrecks, I mean, wrecks Korra. Like, Korra goes through some shit dealing with Zahir. Like, all the other villains tried, but Zahir beeps the brakes off of this girl. He ends up poisoning her, which like hurts her, and Sue is able to save her. But because of that poison and because of the fight between her and Zahir, Korra is paralyzed for like a couple of months. Like, Korra's life is completely fucked up after dealing with this guy because he was so hardcore in his beliefs, and to the point where, you know, she's like, she takes a whole 3 years just to get her life together. And she still has to come back to Zahir to help her connect with Rava because her spiritual connection is still shaken after getting that ass beaten. So Zahir is a definitely serious character, and like I said, Nick E. Terry can pull off he's got the look. He looks like Zahir, but he also can pull off the charismatic side, but also the badass side of Zahir. So he can do the martial arts stuff. So Nick E. Terry would be perfect for Zahir. So, lastly on the list is, I think, a lot of people's favorite villain of the series, that being Amon. And my pick to play Amon is Randeep Hooda. If you're not familiar with this actor, he recently appeared in the movie Extraction, which was on Netflix, where he played this. I was not familiar with him. He's an Indian. He's a Bollywood actor. He's big in Bollywood. And he's in Extraction. He's sort of a bad guy in that, but he has this cool look, this cool charisma, and he can do the action stuff. I thought he had done action before, but apparently that was like one of his first big like action things, and he pulled it off perfectly. And the reason I picked him is because I like his look, I like his voice, and I like his charisma. Randeep is a very charismatic actor, and I would think we would want a charismatic actor to pull off the character of Mon, because most of the time he's covered in a mask. And Amon is the leader of the Equalists, who are a group of people who are non-benders, who hate benders, and who want equality, but really they want to get rid of the benders. And he's their leader. And Amon is this genocidal madman who's a self-hating bender, because you find out that he secretly is a bender. He's a very powerful water bender and blood bender. He is the older brother of Tarlok. And he was raised and trained by his father, Yakone, who is, you find out in backstory, he was this powerful, gifted waterbender slash bloodbender who was this like mob boss. He was uncontrollable, and Aang took him down. He purged him of his bending powers. Yakone snuck away, got a plastic surgery, hid in the Northern Water Tribe, had 2 kids who were Tonrock and Noatak, who is Amon, trained them to be powerful waterbenders, then trained them to be even more powerful bloodbenders. Amon was the most powerful. He eventually broke free, ran away, and is a self-hating bender. And I don't like Amon. A lot of people like Amon, but as the show went on, I realized like Amon sucks because he's taking out his anger on his father on a whole group of people. That's lame. Like, Zahir was 100 about everything from day one. And then you got someone like Amon who's doing all these theatrics and trickery to try to get rid of people just because he didn't like his dad. Like, that's kind of weak. I'm just saying, that's weak as shit. But he's got a cool look. He's very flashy, very eccentric, and I like the group that he has, the chi blockers, and they have like the taser hands and all of that stuff. It's really cool. He's got, like I said, got a great look, and I think Randeep I think he'd be an interesting choice because I want to see more of this guy in like American stuff. Like, I know he's fairly popular in Bollywood, but I like to see him come over and do more American projects, and I think this would be an interesting role for him to pull off. And yeah, that's just my main picks. So yeah, this was a long video. I kind of knew it would. It's not my fault. It's 4 seasons, and there's some really good, solid main characters in this series. Go check out Korra. It's really good. If you haven't seen it, or if you watched it as a kid and you haven't recently rewatched it, rewatch it as an adult because I think you'll like it a lot more. Because, like I said, I don't know why this show was made for kids because this is not a kid show. This is more like a straight up anime, and it's really solid. I would like for them to make more episodes of both Avatar and Korra and The Last Airbender. But this video has just been me rambling about what I would do if I were to make a live action version. If you like the video, like it, share it, and subscribe to the channel. I really like doing this. People seem to like these. This is a very popular series on the channel, so keep liking them and sharing them, and now keep coming out with these things. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more videos. Peace.